welcome to this episode of Waynesboro at Work, a podcast where we interview entrepreneurs and business leaders from Waynesboro, Virginia, to learn more about their businesses, the origin stories of how their passion arose for the work that they do, and a whole lot more. So today I'm really excited to be joined by Blanc, who is the founder of Blanc Creatives. Welcome to the show, Corey.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yes. So for everybody that may not know exactly what Blanc Creatives is, tell me a bit about what you're doing there.
Yeah, so essentially we're a handcrafted culinary tools company. Our main bread and butter product essentially is cookware. So it's all carbon steel cookware. We also have a full wood department where we have utensils and cutting boards. We have a whole cutlery department. So kind of a one-stop shop for handcrafted kitchen tools.
Awesome. So the handcrafted kitchen tools, do you have to be, a big foodie to use these, or are these things that any, home cook could use in their kitchen?
No, anyone can use them.
Okay.
So if you know how to cook, if you know the basics of how to cook,
okay,
then totally.
Awesome. So how did you get into creating these?
Yeah, so my background is in architectural ironwork, and that kind of a long story, but I wound up in Virginia in 2007. And before that, I worked for my uncle down in Georgia where I grew up. And that was all architectural handrails. So basically, as people stamped out homes, we would go in and stamp out builder grade railings. Did that for 4 years, really served as a foundation for metalwork. Moved here 2007, got a job at a blacksmith studio just outside of Charlottesville.
Okay.
And that's when I started forging, basically. And from there, I was still doing architectural work, and I ventured out on my own around 2008 to start my own architectural ironwork business. The bottom fell out. No one was spending any money in that world anymore.
Yes.
So I ended up working in restaurants.
Okay.
Worked in restaurants for a number of years. Really made friends with a lot of chefs and restaurateurs around Charlottesville, and eventually just melded those two worlds together. So during the architectural phase, I was all doing commission work. So draw up a design, meet with the client, kind of go through this whole phase. And some of those commissions could take months, some weeks, some months. But then when it's over, you're waiting on the next commission to come in.
Right.
So if it's not lined up, or even if it is lined up, just scheduling and keeping busy. So I started making products that I could just sell at the city market. And those just happened to be grill tools, bottle openers, kitchen tools. I like to cook, and I know how to work metal. So I just kind of worked them in. And I made a frying pan one time just to see, if I could. Had it at the city market to check the interest, right?
Yeah.
Someone saw it and they're like, if you could do this, that could probably be something.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, let me give it a shot. It took the first one took a very long time to make, and it wasn't that pretty. I spent some time sort of like refining the design, working with my chef friends, making another prototype, handing it to them, getting feedback and having this dialogue with that community. And then I finally got it sort of dialed in, and I liked it. And I started selling them at the city market. Well, I was selling them to chefs first, and then also at the city market. And it was going well. And that was 2016. And we entered into a competition from a magazine called Garden and Gun. And every year they have a Made in the South award competition. And we entered the frying pans into that. We ultimately won the overall grand prize.
Wow.
And so that took me from sort of working with some local chefs and selling at the city market to now having like a national audience.
Right.
And that's Blanc Creatives was founded a few years before that, but that's really when the birth of Blanc Creatives as a handcrafted culinary tools company happened.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So that sort of launched you forward, essentially.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't seeking to become a cookware maker.
Right.
But that's what worked out.
Awesome. So many questions already for you. So I'm just going to start at the beginning. So, where did you become interested in ironwork?
So that I was kind of always around it.
Okay.
My grandfather, my mother's father he built hot rods. He was sort of a motorhead, and he also did repairs on big trucks. He had a shop, and
Gotcha.
I spent a lot of my childhood, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, hanging out at his shop, watching him weld, or not watching, don't look at the sparks. And,
right.
I kind of play on the floor with my little Hot Wheels and make race tracks. And I just spent a lot of time in a metal shop. Like even to this day, the smell of burning metal just reminds me of my grandfather, like giving him a hug.
Yeah.
And so that was where I kind of got into it, but I didn't do anything with it until I was in my early 20s. So in high school, I was essentially like the art kid, used to paint, draw. I really thought I was going to be doing ceramics. That's what I really got into high school. That's what I thought I was going to do after then. Didn't work out, worked several different jobs. And then my uncle on my dad's side of the family, he also had, at that time, he had a metal fabrication company. So I had metal work kind of on both sides of the family. And he needed help for a summer. And I was like, yeah, let me give this a shot, and went and helped him for a summer. And that turned into 4 years. So
wow.
I guess kind of it's a little bit in my blood, that and the culinary world.
Got you. So was there a moment when you were in the culinary world where you remember thinking like, oh, I could combine my ironworking side with creating culinary tools? Like, was there like a single moment, or did it just kind of gradually happen?
I guess really working in kitchens. So we make carbon steel pans, like, and those are very common in the restaurant world, but they're typically very thin and very cheap.
Okay.
You can stack a stack of them up on a back burner. They're all ready for you, getting hot, ready to go, but they'll be, warped, and they're workhorses, but they're not pretty. And so seeing that in restaurants being used, I was like, I think I could probably make something better than that. And that's kind of what gave me the idea to try to make a skillet in the beginning.
Gotcha. So how long did it take to create your first prototype?
Oh, I don't know. That was so long ago. Probably a long time. Let's say a week, of just going back and forth. Yeah. Figuring out what it's going to look like and how I'm going to do it. And it's also before I could really afford any good tools, so it was done over a coal forge that I've made myself out of an old propane tank.
Wow.
A rusted old anvil, one hammer. So the methodology of how they're produced now is completely different and so much better. But at that stage, I'm sure it took me a long time.
Gotcha. So, I'm always fascinated by people who not only have an idea, but they actually move forward with it and try to do something with it. Because I think a lot of great ideas sort of die in the initial thought process, and then it seems too overwhelming. What do you think it is about yourself and people like you, entrepreneurs essentially, that kind of take an idea but then are then able to also run with it?
You have to be too stubborn to give up. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've always done. I just have an idea, I obsess about it, and it doesn't go anywhere until I make it happen, or I'm proven that I can't make it happen.
Right.
it's gotten me where I am, but it's also changed a lot of relationships in my life and kind of caused some hurdles and headaches just because I'm so relentless and moving forward. I
Right.
definitely believe in constant progression.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. I think you hit on something there that seems to be a theme among some entrepreneurs where there's sort of this trade-off of intense focus in relation to having balance in your life. It
Yeah,
seems,
yeah.
yeah, some entrepreneurs, like you said, you're just sort of relentless and some other things can fall by the wayside. But
Yeah, now I try to have a little more balance. I'm
mm,
married. I have a little girl.
aw.
You know, I don't work as long as I used to, but working all nighters, working, 16, 18-hour shifts and just like going in my workshop,
Right.
sleeping in the workshop because then I'm too tired to go home just to get back up and continue.
Yes.
So it took a lot of that,
Yes,
but I
absolutely.
enjoyed it, all of it.
Right. Yes, exactly. I know I was talking to another entrepreneur and he was opening a fitness gym and he slept like on pallets in the
Mhm.
front lobby at one point. Those are the sacrifices you make for sure. One thing that kind of struck me when I was looking at your products online is they seem to me to be almost like heirloom pieces where,
Mhm.
somebody would buy them and then kind of pass them down and I could see them being passed down through generations. Is that how you sort of view these as well?
Oh yeah, totally. You
Okay.
know, then everyone here has sort of their own motivation, but I think
Mhm.
something that does span across, not just myself, but my crew
Mhm.
is the idea that what we're making should outlast us, so you're sort of
Right.
creating something bigger than yourself. And
Right.
to me, that's always been a motivating factor because it is cool. You really think about it. Like I love going to antique stores and
Yeah.
seeing some antiques and you're just like, wow, what's the stories behind that piece, and who
Mhm.
made it? Where did it come
Right.
from? It's 100 years old at least. And so try to think in the future, be kind of cool to see art pieces in an antique store, in 100 years.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. I know there is definitely something to be said in this world of mass consumerism,
Mhm.
having a product that is actually built to last. There's something definitely to be said for that. So
Yeah, all of our
you
products we have a lifetime guarantee on all of our products. So that
gotcha.
is built into the core of what we make.
Got it. So you talked about the award that you won with the magazine and as being a milestone. And then I imagine surrounding yourself with the team that you have was another milestone. So how did that sort of unfold? How did you go from being sort of a one-man shop to having a team behind you?
Um, Very organically,
Okay.
it just especially in the beginning. So at the time when I was still doing architectural work and just submitted the pans, for the competition, it was me and one assistant.
Mm.
And then slowly, but we were doing all commission work, the products that we were selling at the city market and, metal, wood. We were doing some working with like some soapstone pieces at the time. So it was starting to just me and one other guy, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, trying to keep up. And then slowly people would stop by the shop and you start talking to them and they'd be interested in working out, and helping you. So we kind of just grew organically in the beginning. I wasn't searching, but people
Mm.
just kind of found me, like the original crew.
Right.
Um, that was great. And that crew lasted for a few years, that initial, and then people kind of like went and did their own things or, moved, things evolved. Only the last few years have been like searching for
Mm.
people. But I think majority of our best employees have kind of just we found each other.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like a kismet
Yeah.
type of deal. So, how far are you shipping your products? I mean, where is like your customer base coming from? Is it all over the United States at this point? Who is buying all of your awesome goods besides people here
Yeah,
in the Valley?
we ship worldwide.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
we ship a lot of pieces to Australia, New
Okay.
Zealand. Surprisingly, I don't know how they find us, but we do like pretty regularly ship to Australia and New Zealand. Um, yeah, across Europe, a lot to Canada. And I would say in the States, our biggest base is really between New York, California, and Texas, like where
Okay.
we ship to in the States. We sell a lot around here. A lot of our like second scratch and dent pieces, we only sell in-house, and we usually do an event once or twice a year. So when we moved into the new location, we had a open house, and it was great. Probably had like 200 people show up, and
Wow.
we really were able to clear house. Like it was, we didn't have any seconds or anything left at the end of the day there. But yeah, we ship all over the world.
Nice. So you mentioned your new location. Why was Waynesboro an appealing place to open up your shop?
There's still growth potential here.
Hmm.
So I live in Batesville, which is just Afton.
Okay.
So working in Charlottesville, it's 25 minutes to get to work. I live on the mountain, so it's 25 minutes to get to Waynesboro too. And being in Charlottesville for 10, 12 plus years, I've lived there and working there and having my own shop in one location for the past 10 years. We outgrew the spot,
Hmm.
and Charlottesville doesn't have spaces to grow into. There's no warehouse, and it never really happened in industrial past, but Waynesboro has that. There was a lot here. Every time I would come over here, because when I at home, it's so much easier for me to get here to go to Lowe's or Home Depot or something.
Right.
So just driving through Waynesboro more and more, and you just see the old buildings and just this industrial past.
Yes.
And those are things I love. Like just old industry.
Right.
Just like, man, it'd be so cool to have one of those warehouses.
Yes.
And so I'm here. I had this building under contract right before COVID hit,
Mm.
and then financing fell through last minute, and so it kind of was like slipped through my fingers. And that was in end of 2019 going into 2020. Then we had a good year in 2020. Then I was like, let me see if it's still available, and that was early 2021, and it was. And I was like, cool, I swooped in and I got it. I already knew this
Yes.
place. I had dreams of it, at night, like seeing the shop in here. And
Right.
so yeah, I bought it in February last year. We moved in September, and full on shop moved in September. So we've got
Wow.
like 5 or 6 months close to it of
Nice.
truly being here.
Nice. I think you hit on something that's also important for entrepreneurs, which is like being able to roll with the punches. Like when something falls through, being able to keep being resilient and, keep at it, keep working towards it.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned COVID. How did COVID, beyond things with the building, how did that impact your business? And what was it like to be a leader essentially of a team during such a time as the pandemic?
Yeah. So I think when all of that first happened, it's just like uncharted territory,
Mm, yeah.
So what can you do? Really just
Yes.
have to have a conversation with the crew. Like,
Mhm.
how do you guys feel? Do you feel safe? Do you not feel safe? Because I know really when it first hit, because you heard about it on the news for a little bit before. It was in China, and then it was in Europe, and then you hear like, oh, there was some in like Oregon and then New York, and then when you start hearing like local cases, I forget if it's like a long weekend, something, but we're coming back to work, and the conversation was going to be, how do you guys feel? And I get to the shop and everyone's out in the parking lot and they're like 10 feet apart from each other. So I'm like, okay, like this shows how everyone feels right now. It's unsettling. What's the future going to hold? Like none of us had ever been, majority of the world had never been in a position like that before. So,
Right.
there's no game book.
Mhm.
Like, what do I do in this situation?
Yes.
So it's just really conversations
Gotcha.
and people who, like, and what happened eventually, I had 14 full-time people going into it. The crew is a 14-man team. By March, April, we were down to me and 2 others.
Wow.
Yeah. And then our demand went through the roof.
Yes, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. Because everyone was at home. They were cooking more than they ever have before. Restaurants were closed. They weren't spending their money on vacations, So,
Right.
a lot of people decided to renovate their houses or all these home projects and
Right.
develop a new hobby. So the demand for the products just went through the roof. And we're like, well, how are we going to do this? We had a full-time crew. Now it's just like 3 of us. But we had built up some inventory a little before that. So we had that inventory. And then we just kind of like bootstrapped it all over again, and worked through it and constantly being thrown curveballs, it felt like.
Yes.
But, having to be reactive as possible and nimble and it actually wound up being one of the most profitable years we've ever had.
Wow.
And that actually helped with purchasing this building and giving us a space to grow into. So, trying to take a bad situation that you really don't know how to deal with and making the best out of it. And I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah. And right. Absolutely. I think anybody that has managed to stay in business during this time, or even if you had to pivot and do something completely new, like there is sort of this pride essentially in knowing that you did what you had to do to get through this really, really challenging time, for sure. So, how do people find out more about your products? Where should we send them to?
The website.
Okay.
And what I always say is to sign up for our newsletters.
Okay.
Because most of our new product releases or restocks, that all goes out to the newsletter signups first. And then social media. So that's Blanc Creatives on Facebook and on Instagram.
Okay. And then what?
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead. What is the website address for everybody?
Blancreatives.com.
Okay.
So it's
perfect.
BlancCreatives.com.
.com.
So
Perfect.
2 C's and it's plural. Blanc Creatives.
Got it. Now, can people actually come into your business there as well?
Yeah, totally. So we have it as appointment only.
Okay.
We just prefer, we don't mind the occasional walk-in, but we prefer if you reach out to us first and just say, hey, I'd like to come check out what you guys are doing. Just because we're not always in the office or in the showroom area. Even the majority of the admin staff is also production staff.
Yes.
So wear multiple hats. So yeah, totally. We love having people stop by. We just give us a heads up first.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So if you're wanting to stop by, make sure to make that appointment, go check out the website, go check out the social media. One more question for you. Where do the materials that you use for these really gorgeous products, where do they come from?
So it's all American made or American harvested wood. And so our steel supplies either come from Richmond or Philadelphia. And all of our wood, it's either wood that I've milled up myself, or I know people who have milled it up, or that we're getting from a local mill. So
Right.
everything is as local as possible on that front.
Great. So yeah, so all the folks locally can feel really good about buying those, knowing they're supporting the local economy as well. So that's awesome. Well, Corey, it's been great talking with you today. I've really, really enjoyed it. Everybody go check out their beautiful, beautiful products. I feel like they would look and be so useful in any kitchen, but especially also as gifts for people. I'm putting your website on my Christmas idea list for
Nice.
sure. So thank you so much. And for everybody listening, thank you for joining us. You can learn more about Waynesboro and Waynesboro entrepreneurs by visiting waynesborobusiness.com. You can also check out the blog post about Corey at growwaynesboro.com and check out the podcast on Spotify and also the Visit Waynesboro YouTube channel. We'll be back with more episodes. Make sure you tune in. Thank you so much.